Are you ready to go beyond the basics of marketing? I'm Alan Hart, and this is Marketing Beyond, where I chat with the world's leading chief marketing officers and business innovators to share ideas that spark change and inspire you to challenge the status quo. Join us as we explore the future of marketing and its endless potential. Today on the show, I've got Andrew Messina. He's the Senior Vice President for Disney Advertising. And Disney Advertising includes linear, programmatic, and addressable. Many brands that we know: Disney, Disney Plus, Hulu, FX, and many more, as well as ESPN. On the show today, we'll talk about integrations, sponsorships, and advertising and the evolution of advertising. We'll also talk about the changing landscape of advertising and the explosion of women's sports and how they're taking advantage of that opportunity. That and much more with Andrew Messina. Well, Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
I'd love to know how you ended up in media.
Well, I'm not the traditional way like kids these days. I was a history major at Tulane, and my interesting story of how I got in the business is not the traditional like it was in the past, or currently with kids, logging onto LinkedIn. I started looking for a job in New York City, and I saw a classified ad in the New York Times, and I sent my resume into this small advertising agency, and this woman responded to me after I sent it in 2 weeks, prior, and I go, "Oh, thanks for meeting me. How'd you, decide to pick me as all these resumes?" She goes, "My boyfriend saw your resume on the kitchen table, and you went to Tulane and he went to Tulane, so I decided to interview you." And she gave me the job. That's a small agency.
That's amazing. That's the power of networks.
Well, it's not how it's done today.
No.
Which we can get into later.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, what was from that very early job to now being Senior Vice President at Disney Advertising? What was the path? What were some of the big stops along the way?
For me, when I started a small agency, then I went to McCann Erickson. I worked on some big brands like Nestle and Coke, and I realized, I really wanted to get into the sales side of things. So I started as a daytime planner in 1994 at ABC. So that's prior to Disney. We were Cap Cities ABC. So I worked in the heyday of when, daytime television had, some big ratings in General Hospital, All My Children, One Life to Live. And then we had the O.J. Simpson trial, which basically destroyed daytime television because all they ran was the trial.
Trial, right? Yeah.
And then what happened there is, loyal viewers on daytime couldn't watch their show for 6 or 8 months. So they lost interest, and the daytime ratings from then on just kind of disintegrated. And then I moved into primetime because it's the natural progression of promotion. And then there was an opportunity for me to move to Los Angeles as a senior account executive, actually selling. Did that for 5 years during the dot-com boom. Had 3 of my 4 kids, loved LA, no plans to moving. I was going to be an LA person, and then got promoted to VP in New York. So that changed my life a little bit. And then for the last 17 years, I've been senior vice president at Disney because we were bought by Disney in 1996. But in the last 7 years, we've had a lot of different, the media landscape has changed. Up until 2017, I was just selling ABC. After that, now under our umbrella, we sell Disney Channel, ABC, Freeform, ESPN, FX, Nat Geo. All the, Disney Plus is massive now. 5 years ago, there was no advertising. So a lot has changed.
Yeah. Well, you've seen a lot. What is the scope? I mean, besides those properties you just listed off, what's the scope of the role that you have right now?
So now I oversee, my most recent role is I oversee all the brand partnerships, the client partnerships under the team. So we have an investment team that handles the agencies, and I handle all the brand partnerships. So all of the clients under those major holding companies, I work with all those companies, and my primary responsibility is to develop the relationships with the senior C-suite people like the CMOs, CFOs, and CEOs. So I've been doing that for the last 7 years across categories, across agencies, but in the last year, really more so just focused across the entire brand team. So we have an entire brand team under myself.
Okay. Well, if we just pick out sports for a minute, like how have you seen, consumer, brands, I guess, and integrations and advertising shape the sports landscape and the consumer engagement for sports?
I mean, right now, when you talk about Disney advertising sales, we have the best in class, across all properties. We're very fortunate. But when you talk about the main priorities for us, it's streaming and it's sports. And live sports right now, if you talk about the NBA, we just renewed our rights deal with them. We have Monday Night Football. We have 70% of the rating points in college football because we picked up the SEC network. We have all the college football championships. So we have a massive, massive reach in that aspect. And when you talk about sports, a lot of our major clients, we probably 5 years ago had multi-year deals, which is a 2, 3, 4, 5 year deal with certain clients. We probably had 5 to 10 of those a handful of years ago. Now we have probably upwards of 70 plus multi-year deals because even though there's a lot of sports, there's not a lot of real estate. So the demand on live sports now is hotter than ever. And, I don't know if you were going to touch on women's sports, but, women's sports right now, we've been in that business for 30 years. But over the last couple of years, women's sports specifically has just blown up. The WNBA, the women's NCAA tournament, which we had a couple of years ago with Caitlin Clark, those numbers, NCAA women's, were higher than the men's.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and hopefully that's creating more real estate for you and brands to try to figure out how to make it work.
it is.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think brands come to us because whether they're a legacy brand or a new brand, they come to us because they're trying to launch a product. And we have our first Super Bowl in 20 years in 2027, which is very exciting. The last time we had it was in Detroit in 2006. Now we'll have it in LA in 2027. And you probably saw the Super Bowl sells out pretty quickly. If you're launching a major automotive brand right now, you want to be in the Super Bowl. Right. You want to be in the national championship. You want to be in the NBA finals. So we have game 6 tonight, Oklahoma Pacers on ABC. And the demand for NBA has been spectacular.
Well, a lot of brands are trying to experiment with co-creation with consumers. I'm curious if you've experienced or have any thoughts on how that might shift or change or augment the advertising landscape for you at Disney.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll evolve, but at the same time, live sports we're able to do on site for certain during the national championship games, whether it's an auto or a QSR. Those experiences, for instance, college game day. If you're a college football fan, you are watching college football all week long, and we cover it. The best thing about it for us is, you've got ESPN.com, which covers 7 days a week. And then, we've got lead up on ESPN Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then Saturday college game day. You would think that the ratings, because you look at linear ratings, have kind of plateaued. On college game day, they were up 16%, which is huge, significant number. So that makes our sponsors very happy. And also, quite frankly, it just creates more demand. So if somebody pulls out of college game day, it's pretty easy for us to replace them. So it's high demand.
Well, you mentioned auto before, especially as getting in those big marquee moments. If you think about auto and retail, like how do you see the different strategies playing out? Like how is there a leaning towards one versus the other in terms of how you think about packaging the right approach for them?
Yeah, no, I think they have their own approach, and what we do is we customize. They give us their brief of what they're trying to accomplish, whether they're launching a new product in a restaurant or whether they're launching a new auto, or it just depends. We'll customize it to their needs.
Meet them where they are. Okay. Is there any standout moments for you in terms of what retail is doing or what auto is doing today?
I think retail, the gold standard on retail is college game day built by Home Depot. They've been with us for 23 years. It's their gold standard. And, we build all these things. These are built by we have a sports brand solutions team, which handles sports integrations. We have an entertainment brand solution that handles our entertainment, like the Oscars, Country Music Awards. My role is to work very, very closely with the CMOs and make sure that they're happy with everything. So I'm on the road a lot talking to these clients, going down to Atlanta to meet Home Depot, going to Detroit to meet the autos. So we want to make sure, because you look at Cannes right now and you see how many people are here. Relationships really, really still matter. And the only way some of these things are going to get done is through making sure you're connected.
Yeah. Well, you've been in the business for a long time, both on the agency side and on the media side.
Mm-hmm.
What's like maybe one big transformation you've seen over the course of your career?
I would say I would go back to relationship. Back when I started in the business, you had a lot of internal relationships, but we weren't out early in my career on the street. And when I moved to LA and during the dot-com boom, I was on the road every week in LA, San Francisco, Seattle, Portland, meeting with all the different clients there and developing those relationships. Earlier on, I think it was more transactional. The relationships really, really matter. And I know, a lot of things have been automated and we're moving fast and furious towards a 75% of our inventory being automation. But at the same time, like I said, look at Cannes. There's all these people here and they're all building relationships.
What is it? I mean, you've been in various types of sales and general management roles, like that notion of relationships. And can you put your finger on like what it is that makes it so unique and special?
Well, I mean, I think the main factor is trust.
Yeah.
Like, just like, you have good friends for a long time. And when I meet young kids in this, who are coming out of college, one of the things that I didn't have, I got my first start off a coffee table, right? Okay. Now I have so many kids because I have so many kids come to me, college graduates, because I have 4 kids and everybody's like, oh, you work at the Walt Disney Company. Can I come meet with you? And I'm happy to meet it because I want those kids when they move up the ladder to do what I'm doing and meet with them. So I think the biggest difference, right now is the relationships. I think they matter much more than they did, 20, 25 years ago.
Gotcha. Well, one of the things we like to do on the show is to get to know you a little bit better. We know you got that early start in your career, responding to the old ads, if you will. Has there been a experience of your past that defines and makes up who you are today?
Yeah, I would say I go back to LA again. Somebody gave me an opportunity. I was first of all given the opportunity at ABC. Then 3 years into my career, I was on the prime planning side at ABC, and there was a person who was running the LA office. I didn't have direct sales experience. I wasn't a salesperson yet, and he gave me the opportunity. And the opportunity, like I said, was right during right before the dot-com boom. So I was forced to then, with him, go out to see all these clients and explain what we were doing at ABC. And then, we were meeting with the E-Trades, the E-Toys, all those E-companies. And we were just having fun and we were making money. So that kind of changed the trajectory of my career because that really got me deeper into sales. And I really broadened. That's how I really started honing my skills from a relationship standpoint.
So that investment by him into you. And so show you the ropes.
That's kind of what I'm doing, now with a lot of people. And we at Disney, we have a great mentor program. So over the years, I have a lot of ex-mentees, but once you have a mentee, they're your mentee for life. So I still mentor a lot of kids when they're starting work, but I also have a lot of internals. And I think it's probably one of the most rewarding things because I didn't really have that mentor, but I did have people along the way in my career. Nobody does it on their own. And I even tell my own kids, when you're starting off in your 20s, that's the beginning of your story. The rest of your career, and because in your 20s, you're pretty stressed out if you don't have direction. But I think a lot of kids now, and there's a lot of pressure on these kids coming out of college. So I think if just explain to them, it's easy for me to say, don't stress out about it. But if you give them the advice of, all right, just keep your legs moving, keep your head down and work hard. It's not, it's not easy, but it's also not that difficult.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, if you were thinking back and that younger self, looking for that first job or after that first job, where are you going to go next? What advice would you give your younger self?
I would say to myself, look, try not to stress and make sure that you can outwork everyone and open every single door that you can. This has been an interesting last 5 years for this generation because they were at home for a handful of years. And quite frankly, we were in the office 4 days a week. We're not in on Fridays, we're working from home. But I mean, there was a long time that we were, a year plus, that we were at home 5 days a week. And I think that hurt the relationship building for some of the younger generation coming out of college. So I think my advice to my kids and everybody out there is get out there and develop the relationship. You never know where your next opportunity is going to come from. And if you're not having those conversations and you're not having those in-person meetings, it's not going to fall in your lap.
Yeah. Well, is there a topic either you're trying to learn more about or you think marketers need to be learning more about today?
Well, I mean, if we're in Cannes and you don't say AI, you're in trouble. So I am reading Mark Britton's book. There's a on AI right now, and I just think the more I can learn about AI, the better off I think everybody's going to be, because it's not going away. So I think over the next 3, 4, 5 years, it's going to drastically change every single business. But I think in a lot of ways, it's going to change it in some good ways.
Yeah. Are there any trends or subcultures that you're following and you think other people should take notice of? Basically, what I'm most interested in, like, what are you curious about in the world right now?
I mean, it goes back to the younger audience again. When we need to cultivate the younger audience, and marketers are very focused on the younger audience, because you may not be wanting to buy a luxury car when you're in your 20s, but the luxury car makers, and they want to target you because they want, once you're able to afford that, they want you to subconsciously know, oh, I want that car when I'm older. So I think, and in this fragmented world, you really, really need to focus on the young kids, because they are all, they have a lot of choices, and there's not just a handful of retailers out there. There's not just a handful of there's constantly new products going out there. One would have thought that in the retail world, there was a handful of retailers. Now we all know, with the advent of, you can just go online and buy what you want. There's a lot of different choices, from apparel to sneakers or whatever you may have. So I think focusing on the younger audience and making sure that you're attracting them and you're reaching them, that's critical for the marketers.
All right. Well, last question for you. What do you think is the largest opportunity or threat facing marketers today?
I think being complacent, just thinking, coming from Disney, we feel pretty good. We have a pretty good position, because there's the upper funnel and there's the lower funnel. We pretty much cover that entire funnel. And I think the big threat for some of these marketers is they need to make sure that they're reaching that entire funnel. So to me, they need to make sure that that's covered. Otherwise, it could be an issue.
Well, Andrew, like, you've got under your remit and under Disney advertising so much variety of properties and types of opportunities to connect with consumers. If I'm a brand, how do you manage that? How do you bring that power of everything to brands?
Well, I mean, it goes back to what I was saying earlier, is, we have as you said, the portfolio is massive, and it allows us to reach every single audience across every single demo. And when I look at our cultural calendar from the entire year, you start in January with New Year's Rockin' Eve, and then you end with college football and NFL. So throughout the year, we have touch points for marketers. So there's really not a time of year that we're not really making an impact, whether it's streaming, sports, or entertainment.
Well, thank you for coming on the show.
Hi, it's Alan again. Marketing Beyond is a Deloitte digital podcast. It's created and hosted by me, Alan Hart, and produced by Sam Robertson. We have even more cutting-edge marketing insights headed your way. Be sure to subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with our latest episodes. I love hearing from listeners. Share your thoughts about the episode, the topic covered, or the show by commenting on this video or emailing me at marketingbeyond@deloitte.com. If you're interested in more conversations with industry visionaries, we invite you to explore other Deloitte Digital podcasts at deloittedigital.com/us/podcast. There you'll find the Marketing Beyond webpage with complete show notes and links to what we discussed in the episode today. I'm Alan Hart, and this is Marketing Beyond. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are the speaker's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of Deloitte. The material and information presented here is for general information purposes only and does not imply endorsement or opposition to any specific company, product, or service.